The Host is the sixth full-length album from Portrait, a Christian Sand, Sweden-based heavy metal band, an epic heavy metal band, a little bit of power metal in their sound as well, and they're best known and usually described as a band that takes heavy cues from Merciful Fate, King Diamond, as well as early on they had a lot of more Judas Priest in their sound, specifically 70s Judas Priest, and naturally the difference between those two things is something like Satan is their late 80s sound in there too. Now, weren't a lot of bands around that sounded like this back in 2008. There were always bands that gave tribute to King Diamond, but this was maybe something a little bit more original as they started out. At the time, there was Trial was around, their sound was different, and Attic, who have changed their sound since, were a little bit more along those lines. The thing to say about their early discography is that they nailed the riffs on that second record like it was like nothing. Their second and third records were just kind of incredible. They really hit in a way in 2011 and 2014 that it revived my interest in bands that I've just described and got me interested in what this band was all about. They kind of had this expressive, over the top vocalist, and they started working a little bit of Manila Road into their sound in terms of their kind of ballad leaning stuff. So I was impressed by the composers. I think they were a fine band, and they'd been signed to Metal Blade eventually, and so bigger things were ahead for them for sure. But Burn the World was just okay in 2017, and I didn't even catch up with their 2021 record. So when I stepped in and checked out The Host, it was in hope that some of that fire was still there with the band on their first concept album. It's certainly a tale of possession, and one that really fits into that maybe the King Diamond touch in their work. I'm more interested in what the album does in terms of being a very long record with a ton of songs on it that all convey this story and without totally making sense without the lyric sheet. So I don't have the lyric sheet, so we'll just cut to the songs that I like, and we'll start with a preview song here to get a taste for what kind of blood they're drawing here. To start on the first half of the record, we really get that King Diamond sound, the late 80s stuff with plenty of solos and a lot of theatrics. It kind of builds to a head around Oneiric Visions, and eventually it takes a turn, One Last Kiss, which has got more of maybe the late 80s Manila Road feeling, where they were moving from speed metal towards thrash on those last couple of like 87 to 89 records. And it's not quite that hard, but they do kind of push through the record with more pacing, as it is a 75-minute record, and they kind of do have to move ass to really get through it, and they do. There's a lot of fine songwriting on this record. There's just a lot of it to get through. It's going to take a lot of listening. So if you like the sound, stick with it, because there's a little bit of black metal. There's plenty of power metal on here, kind of the 80s power metal style, and there are bigger songs ahead. The second half of the record is maybe even more interesting. It's more dramatic, and it gets to the best parts of the story being told. And so the darker side of it, the lighter side of it, and where it resolves is the most exciting part of it as a concept album. And I'll be able to speak to the lyrics later on, but I don't have them at the moment. So for now, I can just say that it's again, a dynamic and eventful record that really is one of their best. It is kind of the best example of everything that Portrait can do, just all in one record, and a ton of record to sit with if you enjoy both storytelling and just heavy metal. I would complain about a 75-minute record, saying I just don't need another one of those at the moment. There's a lot of legacy, quote unquote legacy bands that are putting out too much of a record, but I think this is a band that is interesting enough and has enough of a broad oeuvre and talent to be showing up that much. I do prefer the songs that cut to the riffs, and they still have riffs, but this is more about putting on the show here, and they're actually great at it. So if that's to your taste, and maybe I just said King Diamond and you pressed buy on it, that's my reaction to this kind of record. But there is plenty of substance here, and I would check it out if you've been a fan before, because there's something that you're going to like about this record if you liked anything they've done in the past. So this released on June June 21st. Go ahead and check it out yourself and read my review if you'd like more of my thoughts.
When as I speak, now the flames are consuming.